I'm Spencer Mazyck, and joining me now is lawyer turned Kid Klass founder, Havona Madama. Kid Klass is a website that enables parents to identify, organize, and purchase children's classes and activities all in one place. Welcome, Havona. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So before we get to Kid Klass, which is the company and website that you created, let's talk about your legal background. Did you start out as a solo practitioner?
I didn't start out specifically as a solo practitioner. I started my career as a litigation attorney in Chicago for a small insurance-based law firm. But about a year and a half after doing that, I realized that what I really wanted to do was have my own firm because I didn't really like working for other lawyers, frankly. And so I started my own firm in 1999.
And did you continue with insurance, or did you do something different?
No, I went
then?
completely different. I had always thought that I would practice entertainment law when I first went into law school. And when I was in law school, I interned in the TV division at National Geographic, and so I thought I would do TV entertainment stuff. Mm-hmm. But it was 1999, and there was a lot of tech going on in New York, and I thought, I'm starting a new firm. I'm pretty young as a lawyer. I should pick a field that's not really resolved yet.
But were you a little bit nervous, though, about going into entertainment and technology, not having had any proper training in that?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I think that's the entrepreneur side of me, right? Like, I guess that's how I ended up an entrepreneur at the end of it, is that I'm just one of those people. I wasn't that nervous about not knowing it because I did know a lot about entertainment. Having done some internships and growing up in the entertainment business myself, I felt like I did know a fair amount about contracts and terms, especially for music and TV. But going into tech was a little bit different, but I wasn't so nervous because nobody had any standard tech contracts then. Mm-hmm. It was a whole new area.
And so you successfully transformed your solo practice into a partnership,
yes,
working with technology and entertainment startups, is that right?
That's correct.
Well, and tell us, though, how did you make the transition, though, from counseling entrepreneurs to becoming one?
Oh, well, you know, about 2.5, 3 years ago, I started having, my guess, like my 12th midlife crisis, and I had a daughter, and
Stoney is her name.
Stoney is her name, yeah, exactly. And I was trying to reserve some classes for her, and I thought, this is really annoying. It's so hard to find any classes, and I spent so much time, like 60 hours of my time that I really couldn't afford to spend on these sorts of things, looking for classes, and I said, somebody's got to do something about this. Mm-hmm. And so I had tried a couple of other projects with her. I seemed inspired once I had a kid to come up with
with ideas.
You know, whatever I couldn't find for my kid, I decided to develop myself, right?
Well, and I want to talk specifically about that because I know you're about to tell us a little bit about Kid Klass.
Sure.
But before Kid Klass, there was a clothing line in 2007 for tots.
Sure. Well, that was inspired when I was pregnant with my daughter, actually. What happened is when I was pregnant, I got overcome with the idea that I could be a great painter of some sort. And I started hand painting clothes, and people liked them. So I started a little clothing line. And then when my daughter was born, I'd have her model them and, do some things like that.
Yeah, that's very cute.
Yeah. So the clothing line, like many things when I was running the law firm full time, became something that took too much of my time. And so I sort of put it to the side. And then I worked on the next thing, which
Mm-hmm.
was the yoga video, because then my kid was older and she was
The yoga
difficult.
video is also for children?
Yes,
for tots
it's called Tot Yoga, and it's for doing yoga with your kids that aren't quite old enough to go to the yoga studio with you and not drive you crazy.
So
a
you
little
can
bit
do
like
your
under
yoga
3 years
and they
old.
can do their yoga too at the
Yes,
same
exactly.
time. So let's talk.
It's interactive yoga between parents and children, really.
Well, I want to talk about something called Tuesdays at 10. It was
Sure.
formed in 2009, which was about 2 years after you created the clothing line. So what is Tuesdays at 10?
So Tuesdays at 10 was, I just decided, well, it's crazy I keep coming up with all these ideas. I better just start a company, because I kept thinking, like, all I keep coming up with is more ideas to make it simpler to be a parent, to take the stress out of parenting. So I created Tuesdays at 10 as a company to create these kinds of products. And technically, Kid Klass is one of those projects, and Taught yoga is one of those projects.
So Tuesday at 10 is sort of the umbrella, and you have all these different companies that come underneath it. And as you said, it's a way to sort of help reduce the stress associated with parenting.
Exactly.
That's genius.
Thank you. Although it doesn't take away all of my stress of parenting necessarily to have the company.
But at least you're helping other people take it where they are stressed. So let's talk a little bit more about Kid Klass now. So what services do you offer, and how does it all work on the website?
So currently the website is basically an aggregator of information for kids' classes in Brooklyn. It's a hyper-local website. We're in the process of raising money and transitioning it to a mobile website for all of New York, and then obviously, hopefully, all of the country.
That's great, because I was going to say, you're a Brooklyn mom, you're going to focus on that area first, but you're hoping to expand geographically, is what you're saying.
Yeah, so what we originally did is that we said, let's see if people need this, which we knew as parents. My partner in the business is also a parent. We knew as parents that this was something people needed, but you need to test the market first. So we just went and found all the classes we could find, brain dumped everything we knew, called, emailed, searched the internet, and put all the information in one place so parents could look through it like a listing service, like a directory.
And this was born out of your frustration or your desire to find perfect combination of activities for your daughter study?
Completely. It was a whole host of issues. The first issue was it took a lot of time to find the classes. It was hard to find people who also had taken the classes to say whether they were good or not classes.
If they would recommend them.
Yes. And it was once you found the classes, it took a lot of time to register for them, because a lot of these businesses don't have online. You have to call them, or you have to go in person and fill out a form with handwriting. It's very antiquated.
No, I read something about parents actually waiting in lines to fill out and get kids registered for these type of classes.
It's true. There's New York City, as you know, has millions of people in it, and it has 2 million children, and they all need places to go. So what ends up happening is parents who want the best programs or the most sought-after programs get up every year, it seems like earlier than the last year, to be closer to the front of the line for the most desirable classes.
The New York Times has called this generation waiting list, because there seems to be a wait list for almost everything from getting into preschool to going to summer camp. So is this website really a way to help parents keep their kids off of those wait lists?
It is. In the long term, when we're done developing what we're developing, and obviously I can't tell you everything we're doing because I do have competitors, but in the long run, you'll be able to go on the site, and one of the services you'll get is priority booking with preferred vendors. So that is something we will provide. And currently what we do is we have what's called a concierge service. So if parents don't have the time to look, or don't have, mostly the time, but would prefer someone else to do it for them, we do it for them. So we look up all the classes that would fit their schedule and try to get them booked. So.
No, it's a great idea, and I'm sure a lot of folks find it incredibly helpful. But I want to ask you this. Because you come from a family of entrepreneurs, I think both your parents are entrepreneurs.
It's true.
Did you think that at some point in your career you would start your own business? Did you know that going into law?
It's interesting. I don't think I consciously knew it when I was getting into law, but when I started transitioning into doing Kid Klass full time, and I started discussing with my business coach, what was propelling me to change my entire life when I was at such a good point in my career, it came to me that I never really wanted to grow a law firm. I always wanted to have law as a safety net for the kinds of other projects that I wanted to do. And I think it was more unconscious than conscious, but it came out as I was starting to develop the decision to leave the law firm and start Kid Klass.
So Havona, do you think that you'll ever go back to practice at some point in the future?
The problem with being a lawyer is there's always that nagging conservative voice in the back of your head that they taught you when you were in law school.
It limits you in so many ways, huh?
It limits, but it's also freeing in some ways, right? Because it limits me because it says, if it gets hard, you can always go back to law. But it also says, if you crash and burn, you can always go back to the law. Right?
So, that's an interesting perspective. So you're not risk averse because of it. You are free to do whatever you want because you have the legal degree to always fall back on.
And because going into a tech startup and being a tech startup lawyer are not that divergent. So the kinds of clients that I work with respect what I'm doing. So if I was to go back, they wouldn't be like, oh, tail between your legs. They'd say, that's awesome. You tried. You learned something. What's next?
And you've got a lot of practical experience in the process.
Exactly.
So.
And I feel like I really did learn a lot because I didn't realize how many day-to-day things entrepreneurs do when I was working mostly as a lawyer and sometimes as an entrepreneur. Now that it's the other way around, it's like, oh, wow, it's, an interesting combination of skills you need to be a full-time entrepreneur.
So tell me this, though. Will you continue to create companies based on your experience as a mom and as a parent?
Absolutely. I have to push away new ideas and just write them down on a pad because I'm like flooded with them every single day.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. It's great, and it's also a curse.
You have 2 daughters now, so...
I do. Stoney, who's going to be 6 in a couple of weeks, and Wyatt, who's going to be 3 in October.
And I'm sure that they both serve as your sources for inspiration. So.
Yes, and a terrible distraction sometimes as well.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today to talk
pleasure.
about your companies. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
For more information on this or other topics, subscribe to BloombergLaw.com. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you for joining us. Bye, everybody.